Good morning, everyone. Thank you for participating in the 2025 CHIP grant application webinar. So, my name is Tanya Lewis. I was just talking to my team. This is my first time using Microsoft Teams to conduct the webinar. So, hopefully, you guys see my presentation okay. And I'm going to do a quick introduction of the CHIP team, and you'll get their information at the end of the webinar. But we have online today Gloria Howe. She is one of our grant coordinators, as well as Chris Hurley. He's our outreach person, as well as our single family housing underwriter. And we also have Linda Ballard, who is also our grant coordinator. And we also have Tracy Ponder. She popped off a little while ago because she normally has issues with her camera. So she wanted to be on camera, but she should pop back in. But that is our CHIP staff. And so I'm going to go ahead and just for housekeeping, if you have a comment or a question, you can place it in the chat, or if you have a question, and I don't mind you raising your hand, there's a feature in Teams where you can raise your hand, and either one of my team will let me know that you have a question, or I may see it. It just kind of depends on how focused I am because I'll be looking over at our slides. So normally I normally turn off my camera because I'm looking over to the side, but it's not because I'm not, I normally keep my camera on, but I don't like to look away. I like to focus in on our team. So I'm going to turn my camera off while I'm presenting, and then I'll turn it back on once I'm done. Okay, so let's get started. And I always have a hard time finding the bottom. Okay. So again, this is the Community Home Investment Program known as CHIP, and we are doing our 2025 grant application webinar. So during this webinar, we want to do a quick overview of the CHIP application. We're also looking at scoring criteria, and we're going to talk about the submission instructions using emphasis. So let's talk a little bit about CHIP. CHIP is a federally funded program. We receive our home dollars from HUD. It is not a direct beneficiary program, so we cannot assist homeowners directly. We average between around 10 to 15 grants per year, and we provide an annual allocation statewide. So a little bit about home. As I stated before, HOME is a federally funded program. It is a formula grant allocated to states and local governments. We usually partner with nonprofits, or it usually partners with nonprofits. It is the largest federal block grant designed to provide decent, safe, sanitary, and affordable housing for very low to low income households. And that very low to low income households means that households cannot exceed 80% of the area median income. So how does CHIP meet the affordable housing needs of Georgians? We do that through new construction of single family homes, owner occupied housing rehab, and we are also a resource center for residents across the state seeking housing assistance. So how we do that is that we actually we have a email on our webpage that is chip@dca.ga.gov, and on that, within that email, most of the home buyers or homeowners seeking assistance, they'll contact us through that email, and or they may contact me directly because I know my name is on there. But we try to look and provide as many resources as we can to provide housing assistance, just because, there's not a lot of assistance out there. So we want to provide them with as many resources as we can to assist them with housing assistance or any other type of housing that or assistance that they may be seeking, that we can quickly look up some type of resources or keep a database within our program. So just to give you an idea of, we talked about new construction, and this is one of our projects that was built by the Covington Housing Authority. It's new construction, as you can see, and this was during the open house. They built, I believe, about 5 homes, and they all sold successfully, and it was just a great event just to go out. It's always great to go out and see what our grantees are doing, to be on site and just to even talk to the home buyers, because it's so rewarding to see that they've actually been able to obtain this dream of some people to be able to purchase a home. So we're very proud of the work that our grantees are doing, and we look forward to working with more. So this here is, we talked about doing owner-occupied rehab, but we also do owner-occupied reconstruction as well. And so I believe this is a reconstruction. So basically, when we do a reconstruction, we can take the home to the bottom. We do a gut rehab, and during that gut rehab, we rebuild the home. We keep the home on pretty much the same footprint, but we're able to basically give the homeowner a new home, even though we're using owner-occupied rehab funds. So that's always an option. We can do minor rehab, but everything has to be brought up to code. But at the same time, if the home is just in such disrepair, we can offer a reconstruction of the home. So let's talk about some of our CHIP accomplishments. So I took some time to look at this to kind of get a number for us as well of what we've been able to accomplish in the past few years. So when I look back at the homes that were projected to be assisted, either through new construction, reconstruction, or just rehab, since 2016, we projected to assist over 900 households. And for every grant award, we project to assist 4 to 7 households. And since 2014, we've awarded $74 million in CHIP funds to help home buyers as well as owner-occupied households. And within those numbers, since 2014, we have awarded over 174 local governments, public housing authorities, and nonprofits since, like I said, 2014. So that's a major accomplishment with a staff of, 5 people within one program. So I applaud my team because they work hard and they have a heavy workload. But our goal is just to make sure that we make this program as easy as possible. Or no, there's nothing easy about home, but we make this program that we provide as much technical assistance as we can, and we hope to help make this movement through CHIP as smooth as we can. Maybe that's the more operative word than easy, because home is not an easy program to administer, and we do recognize that with our grantees. The question, yes. So let's get into the CHIP application, because that's why you're here. So we have 2 application forms. It is I believe we actually have combined that application. So it's not 2 application forms, it's 1 application, but you can choose from owner-occupied housing rehab. You can also choose from a set aside for owner-occupied housing rehab. and we also have our single family new construction. So the applications have an application fee of $500, and you can only submit one application, meaning you can only choose owner occupied, set aside, or new construction home ownership. And I'll talk about the set aside in once I get into the body of it, may even be the next slide. And you would submit the application this year using our emphasis portal. And I will talk about that a little bit later in the slides. This will be our first year actually using emphasis, so you have to bear with me. If you have any issues or questions, I didn't place this in the slides, but if you have any issues or questions about emphasis, you can contact me, and then I can in turn talk to our internal emphasis gurus to find out more about, how we can better assist you. So just bear in mind, I'm a newbie with emphasis as well, but I'll do all I can to help make your application successful. So what does CHIP provide? We talked about this earlier, that we provide new construction and owner occupied housing rehab, but with our let's talk about it a little bit more in depth. So with new construction, we award up to 1.5 million. And last year was the first year we increased the award to 1.5 million. We had increased it to 600,000. So as you can tell, we almost doubled the award because we are very focused on making sure that we provide more affordable housing across the state. And with this new construction funding, it can be used to acquire, rehabilitate, or newly construct single-family homes. Now, the homes have to be sold to low income home buyers. So we can't just build the homes and you sell them whenever you can sell them. We're on a very tight schedule. Homes have to be sold within 9 months after we complete. So a lot of the things that we tell you or that you have to do, it is not necessarily always CHIP rules, but it's also federally mandated home rules. So as a part of this, you have to make sure that the homes are sold to low to income home buyers. But what we are allowing, all the homes have to be single family units, and they are defined as structures of 1 to 4 units. So it can be, as long as they're sold, they can be duplexes, they can be townhomes, or they can just be single family, one unit single family homes. But again, if you're building them, they have to be sold. With the owner occupied housing rehab, we've increased the award from 400,000 to 500,000. And again, these have to be single family units, which are owned by the homeowner. And also, as a part of this program, we cannot rehab homes that are for rental or to be used as transitional homes. They have to be owner occupied, and it has to be the owner has to reside in the home. It can't be for any other purpose. So we have to make sure that the owner resides in the home, and we also have to look at the entire household. So that's a part of the owner occupied housing rehab program. I'm probably going a little bit into the weeds of the program, but I want to give you an idea of what we're looking at when we talk about owner occupied. So let's talk about how to apply for that's 2024. That's one slide I forgot to change. I apologize, but we're looking at the 2025 CHIP application. And it doesn't matter how many times you go over the slides, you will always miss one or two things. So let's talk about eligible applicants. I know that there may be some people on this webinar that may be homeowners or looking to buy a home. I apologize. This webinar is not for you. Not saying that we can't eventually assist you. We have to have a grantee in your area. But when we say eligible applicants, it has to be a city or county government that's not a PJ, public housing authorities, or nonprofits. And here are our ineligible participating jurisdictions, and we only focus on these participating jurisdictions because they receive a direct allocation from HUD. So that's why. But if you are a city or county within those areas, and you do not receive home funds, you're welcome to apply. So I talked about our owner occupied set aside very briefly when I said that was part of the application process. So we have a special um, consideration for our owner occupied, and it's because it's so hard to get an award with CHIP if you don't have any type of experience with CHIP. So what we have kind of created to make it a lot easier for new applicants is that we're looking at you through different lenses. So we ask that for to be considered for the set aside, you have to be a local government. You show us or demonstrate that you have a need for owner occupied housing rehab. You cannot have received CHIP or state CDBG funds, which is another program that can be used for housing within DCA and also within the federal government under HUD. You cannot receive those funds within the last 10 years. You also have to show us that you've taken the initiative, that even though you haven't received federal funds or any type of housing assistance, that you have done things on your own within your community to better improve your community. So that could be code enforcement, demolition, community cleanups, whatever it is. Tell us what you've done so that way we can kind of say, okay, they're doing something in their neighborhoods that they, you know, even if they haven't received any assistance, they have taken their own initiative to do something, because the main purpose of this portion of or this part of owner occupied rehab consideration is that we want to give you an opportunity to receive CHIP fundings. Now, the biggest caveat to this is that you must procure a grant administrator to be eligible to be considered for this category. And that grant administrator needs to have experience with housing rehab, because that is the purpose of allowing grantees without any experience to participate in this portion and to receive the points for this portion is that you're leaning heavily on your grant administrator, because like I said before, home is a complicated program to administer, and if you're just coming off the streets, it's going to take a lot of technical assistance to bring you up, for us to bring you up to where we need you to be. So an experienced grant administrator will help you within this transition. And once you receive your funding the first time, it's kind of easier, if you were successful, to receive an additional CHIP award the next application round. I know I'm talking a lot. Do we have any questions? So I believe it was our 2024 application that we also added some additional considerations. And these are the things that we focus on when you're applying. So we look at you a little bit differently. It may be points or it may be reasons why we say, hey, we can't necessarily consider this application. So for new construction applicants, we want to encourage our state CDBG funded recipients to apply for new construction so that they can use their infrastructure. Maybe if they receive a CHIP, I'm sorry, a CDBG infrastructure award, that they can use that for site development and then use the CHIP funding for construction. So that's what we're looking at. You will receive extra points if you have that infrastructure built into your CDBG award, where you can build out a neighborhood, and then you can use your CHIP funding award to build out the homes. They can kind of work together. And so that's one of our considerations. And then for the nonprofits that are applying for owner occupied housing rehab, we look at you a little bit differently and a little bit closely, because in addition to CHIP being a difficult program to administer, it also is not a financially generated program that can sustain your nonprofit. So our resources are well, the funding that you would receive from CHIP is very limited. So we have to look at our nonprofits a little bit differently. Now we don't take this approach with new construction as much, because with new construction you have to bring in your own funding. But with owner occupied applicants, you don't have to necessarily bring in additional funding. So what we look at is we want to make sure that you have successfully been able to manage a federally funded housing program so that you can be successful with the CHIP program. So I want to talk a little bit about the grant administrators, because a lot of our successful CHIP applicants work with grant administrators. So I just want you to focus in on the part of the application and consider procuring a grant administrator. So with this, the applicants may choose to enter into a contract with an experienced grant administrator when they're either during their application phase or when they're administering their program. And with this grant administrator, you would have to procure them. We're not saying that you necessarily have to choose it or work with a grant administrator, but it helps with your points, and it also helps you become a successful CHIP grantee. If the applicant chooses to work with a grant administrator, you must also solicit the grant administrator services through a formal documented procurement process that at least 30 days prior to submitting your CHIP application. But this procurement part does not apply if you're using the regional commission as your grant administrator. So you don't have to procure your grant administrator if they're part of the regional commission. But if you are procuring a grant administrator through an RFP, then you want to make sure you do it 30 days before your CHIP application is due. And also you want to make sure you understand that you do not have to have a grant administrator, but you're strongly encouraged to use a grant administrator. So our CHIP application, getting into the nuts and bolts of it. So we look at your budget for new construction. We don't necessarily look at the budget for, we look at the budget, let me say it the right way. We look at your budget for owner occupied, but we're not holding it against you if you do not have funding available. So when I say don't hold it against you, there are no points added or taken away for not having additional funding, because we understand that with owner occupied housing, there's no sale at the end. So you're only able to administer this program using your project delivery funds that's received per activity. We also look at need, your capacity to administer the program, as well as whether or not you have an affordable housing plan, and also as a part of that affordable housing plan, whether or not you're part of a gig. So the first part of your application, we're just looking at the basic information, your contact, proposed activity. This is all incorporated. The application that you see online is the application that you will use it's the same format and emphasis. So I don't go into details as far as that portion of emphasis in these slides, but you would fill out when you're looking at the application, it should be identical to the application that you're seeing in emphasis, and you should be able to follow it in that order. So we're looking at your contact information, your proposed activity, if you're choosing new construction, owner occupied, or the set aside. How many homes do you project to either rehab or construct? Again, we're looking at your proposed budget and leverage. What are your sources of funding? Are you using land as your leverage? Are you using waived permit fees? All of these things can be added as leverage. If you have any questions about any of this, you can contact us. You also want to list your appropriate contact people for questions that we would have. That could be your grant administrator, or that could be your personal staff if they, but all of that is pretty self-explanatory. And you can email us for any grant administrators that we currently work with. We have a small list. We don't have a long list of experienced grant administrators, but the grant administrators that we do work with are pretty good and efficient. So this is where a lot of our grantees can either this portion of the application can either make or break an applicant, because the section that weighs the most and probably carries the most weight as far as making sure that information is clear is our capacity. And this is where, when people or former applicants call us and say, hey, can you tell us more about our application? What was it? What can we do differently? The biggest thing is making sure that your capacity is clear and concise. So what we ask for is what we need. So we're looking at your applicant's experience with grant activities, your so that means what is your experience administering or completing housing rehab or new construction? We're also looking at what's your staff experience. If you have someone on staff that you can say, hey, we have they have direct experience doing housing rehab or administering housing rehab, or they have direct experience with new construction. We want to see that in your capacity portion. It needs to be very clear, because you have to paint the picture for us. We can't create the picture. You have to paint it. And your painting should be in the form of a narrative with dates and budgets and pictures, so that way we see it. And I'll get into that in a minute. If you're using a grant administrator, you want to include that grant administrator or regional commission staff in your capacity. And like I said before, you want to attach your narrative, your complete narrative, your resume, and your procurement process as a part of capacity. So with capacity, we ask that you attach a narrative explaining your CHIP grant accomplishments. With this, we're looking at, if you had a grant before, we give us the date, give us the completion dates, the amount that you received, the amount that you spent, the budget, if you completed things on time. All of this is, to us, can be pretty self-explanatory, but if you have specific questions, we can't go into details because we are in the application process. But if you do have a question about whether you should include it, let's say this, include it, because you want us to see what you've been able to accomplish when you've received funds in the past. And for grants that are underway, let us know. Hey, we're still working on this, but this is your schedule. When is your expected completion date? How much did you receive? How much have you spent? How many homeowners or home buyers would you assist? How many homeowners or home buyers have you assisted to date? Be very clear. So, and that was for people or applicants that have received a CHIP award. If you haven't received a CHIP award in the past, but you have managed funding before, be it CDBG, NSP, or any other home funded project, in your narrative, again, we're asking for the same information pretty much. Did you complete your award on time? How much have you spent? How much have you do you plan to spend? What is your budget? How many people are you assisting? How many people have you assisted? Please, like I said, we need you to paint the picture. So photos are everything. If you include detailed photos, then that way we can see that, hey, they have received NSP funding and they were able to go and purchase these homes, sell these homes, and purchase the homes, rehab the homes, and sell the homes. So if you can demonstrate that in your narrative, then that gives us a picture of, oh, yeah, they would be good for our new construction because they have been able to, even though it was acquisition, rehab and disposition, we see that they have successfully been able to complete a project on time, on budget, and they have home buyers to show for it. We just need you to complete that picture for us. And I think that that is the only way that we can truly see, because we don't know you. So we have to be able to paint the picture with while we're looking at the application. And so I think that's one of the things I cannot stress enough to our applicants is that capacity is where most of our applicants are awarded. Either they lose points for not showing us a detailed bulleted narrative that gives us a picture of what they've accomplished, as well as making sure that if you have photos available, that they're included. So with this, all requested information on incapacity must be clearly documented and included. We can't provide points for incomplete documentation of the requested experience. So that is our heavy hitter. I just cannot stress enough that most of our applicants that have contacted us is normally where capacity is normally where points are lost. So this is what we look at with our capacity. So this year I wanted to break out our points. So we kind of weighted each thing that we're asking for. So that way you can see as an applicant, what are they looking for? And this is a part of the score sheet. And the score sheet that you're using is the same exact score sheet that we're using to score our applicants. So what we try to do with this score sheet is just show you where each area you can gain points or lose points. So with this, the capacity weight is 40 points. I think for owner occupied, it is 85 points total for the awards. So you can see this is almost half of the score points that you can receive. And so we weight capacity heavily because we want to make sure that you have the capacity experience to administer the CHIP program. Now, granted, we're always here for technical assistance, but when we're looking at your application, this is what we're looking at. And we're also looking at your grant administrator. If you have an experienced grant administrator, then that is a total of 15 of your points that you can receive for having an experienced grant administrator as a part of your application. Do we have any questions? Are you guys got it? Okay. Oh, we have a question? Okay. Can you unmute yourself? You can, Frank, you can go ahead. Or do I have to unmute you? Oh, okay. Let's see. I am not really, like I said in the beginning, this is my first time using their, okay. Can you try it now?
I think we did it at the same time, Tanya. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Frank, we should be able to hear you unless it's your, okay.
All right, now I'm here. Can you hear me
Okay,
now?
there you go.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you. This has been super informative. So we are looking to be a part of the applicants that are looking for the set aside. But when we go down and look at this grant administrator experience, I know we talked in the context of me being hired on here to work on this. So could you just speak?
Sorry. You went out. Frank,
All
you're
right, can you hear me
just
now?
when you, yes.
Can you clarify what the 1 to 5 open awards and the 6 to 10 open awards means? What can you clarify what that means?
Oh, okay. So that is for our grant administrators that we've worked with over in past awards. So honestly, that should say the experience granted experience managing CHIP. So if you're a new applicant, I would just say the one you have no awards, so you wouldn't receive any points for that part because this is for grant administrators that have actually administered CHIP.
Okay. I just wanted to try to maximize how many points we could get. So
And I, I understand, but yeah, this is part of managing the CHIP award. So this is for the experienced grant administrators that have actually worked with CHIP.
yeah, because I see it says managing CHIP if you have, over 5 years experience or 3 to 5. We feel like we got that, but then this next one about administering a new CHIP award, and then this open awards thing, we're not sure what that means and how it relates. It seems like open awards is like, is this supposed to be current CHIP awards that we have that we, or if this was an external organization, this means like if this was a private grant administrator organization, they may have 1 to 5 open awards with you all because they're managing multiple cities. And so they would get points for doing that. Is that what that means?
Well, when we added this information or added this category, we were looking at some of our grant administrators have quite a few awards and some have less. So what we wanted to do was focus on those grant administrators that were not overwhelmed and didn't have too many awards on their plates.
Gotcha.
So it's still dealing with grant administrators because I had to think about it for a second. It's still dealing with grant administrators that have CHIP experience.
Now,
So
okay. My last thing is that for us as a city, we're hiring someone to become an employee. So they won't have another award because they won't be working for anyone else but our city. Um, so we'll miss out on those 5 points.
miss out on those 5 points, but think about it like this. If you were to be awarded, then the next go round, if you reapply, then you would be eligible for those 5 awards.
Yeah, yeah.
Five
Thank you
points.
so much.
Okay. Think. So looking at the capacity set aside, what we talked about earlier. So the information that we require for the set aside is a little different because you won't have past experience to lean on. So we're looking at a detailed narrative with photos of community development efforts, engagement. So that would look like your engagement with the community, like I spoke on earlier, and or how you provide countywide improvements for the residents. We don't have a narrative for how that would look. We just ask that you provide us a detail of what you've been able to do in your community to either engage them or provide community improvements. We look at extra priority will be given to communities that demonstrate partnerships with local organizations for community development. That should have been one bullet. And we also look at those that provide assistance to distressed areas or underserved populations that have not received any federal or state housing assistance in the last 10 years. So that is the idea behind the set aside. So we're just looking at all of the what can you do, what have you done to help your community? Did you just do community-wide improvements? Did you develop partnerships with local organizations? Did you focus in on distressed areas or underserved populations? And you did it all without any type of assistance within the last 10 years. So the next category is need. With need, we look at the target area, your target area. So we ask that you provide a narrative with the map, and we have a mapping tool. We're looking at geographic priority. So basically, are you focusing your funding in your underserved areas? We also want to know if you're federally declared disaster area. That's pretty much all of Georgia at this point. So those are the things that you will receive points for under need. I think need is about 30 points. Most of our grantees know that if you don't have an underserved area, if your poverty levels are higher with owner occupied, you will know immediately whether or not you have points in this area. And for new construction, it's flipped. So we're not looking at the lower poverty rate for new construction. Your points have to be lower for new construction, but I'm sorry. You will receive more points if you have lower poverty than you would if you had higher poverty for owner occupied. Hope that makes sense, but it's just flipped. So with owner occupied housing rehab underneath, we're looking at your current housing conditions. So for owner occupied repair applications, you have to ask yourself when you're filling out your application, because you need to understand, is there a need for owner occupied home repairs in your target area? So you want to make sure that your target area is an area of need, because if it's a lower poverty rate, you're going to receive less points. And most of our applicants are very good at detailing that or demonstrating that there is a need in the area. And you have, of course, selected a target area that will garner you more points. So as a part of need, again, we're looking at a detailed narrative of your housing conditions, and we are asking for photos of a multiple representation, not the homes that you say you've chosen to rehab. We're looking at a multiple representation of the homes in the area that need assistance. So with new construction, when we're dealing with need, we're asking, instead of a housing conditions report, we're looking for a real estate marketing and analysis. We want to know, should we invest funds in creating single family affordable housing in the area that you've targeted? And is there a market for new construction in that targeted area? Again, we have a chip mapping tool that could assist you. And one of the things that we're looking at is whether your current housing stock meets your demand. If the median home value in your area is unaffordable, and also provide us a brief narrative of what are the neighborhood amenities that would be available to the home buyers if they choose to purchase homes in your targeted area. So this is the link. I've checked it. The link is good up until 2024 as far as data. So, and it's operative So this is the link that you would use in order to get your need data. So the last category is our planning. So under planning, you would receive up to 5 points. I think planning is 15 points. So you can receive up to 5 points if you participate in GIC. We have asked in the past application that I believe in this new application, we have a category for GIC Senior, as well as if you're a certified alumni, you will receive a point for that. And you will receive up to 4 points if you are a GIC alumni. And with this, if you are a nonprofit and you're seeking to use GIC points in the area, because of the area that you are targeting or servicing is a GIC participant, then we ask that you receive a letter from them stating that they understand that you are using their GIC points in order to receive points for new construction or for owner occupied housing. So to make it clearer, if you're building in Covington and you're a nonprofit, but Covington is a GIG participant, you would go to the city and ask for basically their permission to use their GIG points to use as a part of your application. So again, that's up to 5 points. And we also look at whether or not you have an affordable housing plan. Within that housing plan, we look at 5 factors, and you can find those 5 factors in the application. But basically, we're asking that in your affordable housing plan, you talk about what are the intentions either as a local government that you plan to use funding, or how do you plan to build out affordable housing? If you are a nonprofit, and let me go back, most of our local governments use their consolidated plan to as their affordable housing plan, and we just ask that certain factors that we are asking for in the application, we ask that you give us the page number so that we know, because some of your consolidated plans are hundreds of pages. So we just ask that you give us the page number for the information that we're seeking. For nonprofits, if you choose to use a outside source for your affordable housing plan, if you don't have one created for yourself, again, if you're using your city or your county, then you need to make sure that you seek out their permission, for lack of a better word, to use their information. And we also have 5 criteria in our application that you can use to create your own affordable housing plan. It doesn't have to be hundreds of pages. It can be enough pages that we can see that what your plan is as far as building out affordable housing for your organization. So once you've decided that you want to apply for CHIP, you can click on the link, and I've tried this link a couple of times. It will take you. I would do it now, but if I do it, I don't know where I'd go. So, but it will take you to the Emphasis link for your application. If you're new to Emphasis and you haven't gone into it to kind of play around with it, because I've done it a couple of times, you would go to the login page. Well, this link would bring you to the login page. You would register. That's the first thing you want to do. So you would click where it says register, and it would bring you to create a new account. If you are a grant administrator and you are submitting multiple applications, then you would I believe here is where you would have to create a different user ID for each one. So I would say the city of LaGrange, whatever email address you create for this one and your password, and confirm your password and the last name or business name. So I would probably say City of LaGrange chip application, however you choose to do it, but it needs to be unique and it won't let you move forward if you don't have these factors filled in. So then you would click register your account. And the next thing you would do is here where it says fill out an application. You click fill out an application and you would choose, because this is a drop down menu. I did it this morning, so I was able to find the drop down. I know initially when we first released the application, some of you went in and couldn't find this link, and there was something I needed to do on my end. So hopefully, if you cannot fill out the application, please let me know so that I can work on making, because I want this to be glitch free, especially by next month and in January when you guys are actually in into actually completing your application. Now, I went to this documents page here. It did not work. So I have to fix this part of it, and I will probably update all of this on the web page, because some of you who gone on DCA's web page will know that we have a different look. We have a new look, and within that, some of our chip information has kind of shifted, and some of it's not correct. So let me know if you have issues with this, and I'll try to correct all of this and put it back on the web page so that all of our links are correct. But right now, I can't. I'm not even really. That link is supposed to go to our chip application document, and it does not. Like I said, I just tested it this morning. But you would fill out the application. You have to have a name. So whatever name you choose or you chose to make this, you have to create a name and go from there. So this is a learning curve for me as well with emphasis. So let me know your questions. Let me know your issues sooner than later. So that way I can try to navigate and fix it before, like I said, before next month. So after you, go ahead, Chris.
Thanks. We have a question in the chat, Tanya. I think it's going to be more addressed to you. Patrick Larson, would it be wise for each local government or nonprofit to have their own emphasis accounts? Also, does emphasis allow applicants to create roles if they're working with a regional commission or a consultant on an application?
Emphasis does not allow roles, but that is a part of your chip application. You would create your roles there. One thing that I found, because this is our second grant management system, is that, or our application portal, they are user friendly, but they're not program friendly. So if you have a lot of layers to your program or your request, we're finding that the application projects just can't really handle too many layers. So we incorporate the layer into the application as far as who's doing what as far as chip contact. But when I would suggest, if you're a grant administrator, that what I found with our past grant administrators is that they create multiple email addresses, like LaGrange 2025 chip at gmail.com, however you choose to do it. But you could have someone and I guess this would be fine if you chose to use your governments to create the accounts. They would just have to give you their login information, so that way they can they have access and you have access if you're comfortable with that. But in the past, most grant administrators just create multiple accounts because it will not allow you, because I've tried it, it will not allow you as an applicant to create multiple applications for the for a particular, like if you're just doing chip. I haven't tried any of the other because you'll see that you have options. Like I said, there's a drop down menu. So there's some different types of applications that you could apply for. But if you're doing chip, you really just, create different account titles and email addresses to make it simple. Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
So we're almost out of time. So what happens next? So we have our scoring. It's normally after you submit your application January 31st, we start our scoring process. It's usually between February and March. We award in March or early April. Our contracting phase, meaning when you start to submit the conditions and all of the things that we require for our agreements, that contracting phase is between April and July. We try to conduct our grantees training between June and August. This year, each year I push it back only because our contracting phase starts in September. A lot of our grantees may miss that date because it's kind of hard to pull all of the information together. But we're starting our training a little bit later because I want to train you when it's fresh in your brain, when you're just about to get started, as opposed to training you in June and you don't start your program until November. A lot of that information is lost. So it's easier to train you closer to when you plan to administer your project. And if we have to come in and do mini training sessions or technical assistance to help you get started, that's not a problem. That's what we're here for. So again, our grant activity starts September 1st. And we have, for those who have administered CHIP years ago, I think we started in 2022 that CHIP is now a 3-year program because the first year is just kind of figuring things out. And then the next couple of years, if you can get the ball rolling, and it takes about 2 years to administer the program. So with this, it's a 3-year program, but we do allow for one extension. And the reason why we only do one is because we don't want to continue having older grants fold into new grants, and it just creates a larger workload for us as well as for the grantees as well. And then it kind of prohibits you sometimes from applying for CHIP again. So just to sum everything up, our deadline is January 31st, 2025. There is no time limit. I'm in bed by 9 o'clock. I don't ask for you to submit it by 5 o'clock. You can submit it up until January 31st, whenever the emphasis cuts you off. I think that's the thing about it. If emphasis cuts you off, then that's when the grant is the application is due. If you need a Word version of the application, just let me know and I can email it. You just email me and I will email you a Word version. You have to complete the application and submit the application in emphasis. We do have links where you can upload your attachments. I hope I put in blank links. So if you have additional information that you want to upload that's not labeled or labeled in emphasis, but you have additional information, you can use links to just upload as much as you need to. And also don't forget there is a $500 application fee. You would submit it by mail and send it to the DCA office at 60 Executive Park South, Atlanta, Georgia 30329. And that is all as far as our application webinar is concerned.